Hello, this is Dave Sugarbaker, and it's the end, almost the end of the month of July. It's July 28th, 2024. And I have a short little snip from the Sermon on the Mount. This is from Matthew 7. In everything, do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law and the prophets. Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the road is easy that leads to destruction, and there are many who take it. For the gate is narrow and the road is hard that leads to life, and there are few who find it. I had a dream that's quite disturbing recently. In the dream, I had reached the pearly gates, so I must have died. And St. Peter is at the gate handling admissions. I notice that there's a door to the side of the pearly gates with rickety stairs leading down, way down. I'm stopped for the obligatory quiz by St. Peter. Now, I've always known this was how it would be. I've done a review of my life, and I know that I will never be granted access unless it's by a forgiving and benevolent God. There is no way that I have earned my way in. I'm not the guy from Jesus' parable who's loudly proclaiming his gratitude to God that he's better than everybody else. I'm the one who's over in the corner saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. So in the dream, St. Peter looks me over and consults his ledger book, and he says, well, Dave, you're human, and just like the rest of us, and so you're not perfect. But because God is a God of love and not a God of judgment, I'm not going to hold your sins against you. I don't say anything, but inside I'm breathing a huge sigh of relief. St. Peter goes on, I see by your records that you were sort of a computer guy. You like relational databases, it says here. And I said, yes, that's true. Is that going to weigh in my favor? St. Peter shuffles his papers and reads some more of my life. He says, it looks like your papers are all here. There's only one problem, and it's a big one. It may keep you from gaining access. And I croak out, what is it? And St. Peter says, your username and password don't match. And suddenly the pearly gates snap shut, and I'm being propelled toward the door and the rickety stairs down, down, down. You get the idea. That's when I wake up from the nightmare. But it isn't just a nightmare. I got jealous of my wife's iPad. It has great capabilities, and it has a really good, colorful screen. And I found a used one in good condition online, and so I bought it. When it came, I had to configure it, of course. Things were sailing along nicely until I got to installing my Kindle library on my new iPad. Up came a screen saying that to install this app, that is the Kindle app, I would need to provide my Google username and password. Well, I got the username correct, but the password, I had no clue. I tried all the passwords that I could remember. Nothing worked. And I was ready to click, I forgot my password. But the machine had had enough, and it announced without any further prompting that since I had made repeated failed attempts to find the right password, the machine was shutting me out, and I could try again in 7 days. So I was in a technological purgatory for a week. And I'm happy to report that after that week of being locked out, I was able to go into my iPad and humbly request a new password, which was granted. And now I have a fully functioning iPad. So what has this to do with anything? All that I've been describing is just a minor frustration of modern life. Does it really matter in the long run? Well, my perspective on stress is that stress is cumulative, and that little stresses of dealing with things like technology or modern life can add to our burden and detract from our quality of life, because it's a cumulative load of stress that we find ourselves under. So that's what I think about stress, and if I can turn my page, I'll be good. The important question is, how do we deal with big and little stresses in our life? Do we address them or ignore them, hope they'll go away? Do we try to attack and eradicate them or find a way to work around them? The quote from the Sermon on the Mount about choosing the narrow gate rather than the wide open one is interesting. Choosing the narrow gate is the more difficult option, made only by those who want to be part of God's kingdom. But it's not an accident that the discussion of choosing the narrow gate is preceded by a one-sentence summation of the law of Moses. In everything, do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law and the prophets. Wow. In Jesus' time, the Pharisees and other Jews were turning themselves inside out, trying to earn righteousness by following all of the 613 laws of the Torah. Jesus' one-sentence summary is simple and straightforward, but in a way it's harder than the 613 laws of Moses. All you have to do is do everything, in everything, do to others as you would have them do to you. If you only do it sometimes, or in certain situations but not others, your username and password won't match, and you won't get into the kingdom. So in one way, Jesus is suggesting an easier path, but in another sense, the narrow gate is the harder option. It's only one rule, not 613, but the rule is in every situation, treat others as you want to be treated. Now, the Christian path in the first couple centuries was a really difficult choice. The first and second century Christians had a really tough time. The Roman Emperor Nero, who reigned between AD 54 and AD 68, was one who oppressed and persecuted the Christians, this new sect that was coming up. It's reported that he illuminated his Roman palace garden with the burning corpses of Christians in one round of persecution. This was the first generation after the time of Jesus. It was 54 to 68 AD. That's Nero's tenure. And the Gospel of Mark had been just barely written, but Matthew, Luke, and John were yet to be put on paper. But the document, the teachings of Jesus, were known to all Christians at that time, and they had memorized what later became 3 chapters in Matthew's Gospel, which we call the Sermon on the Mount. So at the time of their tremendous persecution and Jesus' recommendation that they take the narrow gate that was going to be hard, oh boy, was it going to be hard. Now, after the 3rd century, however, when the Emperor Constantine and his successors adopted Christianity, it became a lot easier to be Christian. There was no more persecution. The road that leads to life, quote unquote, became a little bit less difficult. So, borrowing advice from the 70s, don't sweat the small stuff, and by the way, it's all small stuff. Passwords will come and go. Stress is what keeps us going. It keeps us growing. We're never going to avoid all stress. It's a fact of human life. It's what gets us up in the morning. Save your energy to deal with the big choices in life, like consistently treating others as you would like to be treated. By doing that, you fulfill all 613 laws of Moses, and that's quite an accomplishment. And that's all I have to say about that. God bless you. Take care, please. And if you find value here, I'd appreciate it if you'd pass it along. Thanks. Bye-bye.